All right, let's jump straight into it. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the utterly chilling second chapter of Where the Ocean Breathes, where, as you're gonna see, the normal rules of combat are just completely thrown out the window. We're dealing with an enemy that you absolutely cannot just cut down with a sword.
Okay, let's dive into this. The long night of fighting is finally over, but Tanjiro, he can't sleep. He's standing right there by the shore, inhaling the freezing morning air, and he realizes something terrifying. That dark, heavy stench of combat, it hasn't vanished at all. The sea looks completely peaceful on the surface, but Tanjiro's intuition is just screaming at him. He realizes, with this absolute sense of dread, that the fight is far from over, because despite that comforting morning sun, something massive has stayed behind, and it is quietly watching them. And then the backup shows up. It's such a brilliant false lead. On one hand, you have Inosuke screaming at the sea, literally trying to punch the crashing waves like a maniac. And then there's Zenitsu, curled up in a ball of pure, unadulterated terror, totally convinced he's going to die. It's almost funny, right? Well, until you realize that this standard, highly aggressive, demon-hunting mindset they brought with them is completely and utterly useless against what's actually lurking in that water. To really grasp the scale of this threat, we have to completely shift our perspective. What if the demon they just fought was basically just a tiny fragment, like a drop in a bucket? Imagine the entire ocean acting as one massive single body, where the demons are literally just its fleeting thoughts. It introduces this terrifying new rule to the universe, and it's actually strange fact number 4. Water doesn't just retain heat, it retains memories. And when the sun goes down, man, that terrifying theory becomes a reality. The whole atmosphere just shifts. We go from a traditional monster hunt straight into a pure psychological haunting. Instead of one big monstrous roar, it's hundreds of whispering, overlapping voices rising out of the dark waves. And they aren't screaming threats at them. They're just whispering things like, "Come back. You promised. I'm waiting." But the absolute peak of the horror hits when Zenitsu realizes these voices aren't just making random noise. They're saying his name. This isn't just fear anymore. It's the horror of being hunted by the environment itself. And this brilliantly illustrates just how surreal things are about to get. Because the sheer terror of the moment slows everything to a crawl. The dark water doesn't just crash, it actually pulls back, and it reveals something completely impossible, an intact submerged city, just resting down there in the crushing darkness. We're talking destroyed houses, streets, and, this is the craziest part, lanterns that are somehow still burning underwater. And right among those glowing lights, slow-moving figures begin to stir. Let's just pause for a second. Put on your investigator hats with me, because I want you to really think about the implications of this. What if there is a place in this world where the drowned go, but they don't actually die? What kind of horrific, supernatural anomaly are we even looking at right now? As Tanjiro takes a breath, the truth finally clicks, and it completely shatters that initial demon-hunting premise Inosuke had earlier. These figures walking the ocean floor, they aren't demons forged from pure evil. Not completely. They are human beings. People who drowned, but whose emotional ties to the living world were so impossibly strong that they just refused to let go. It's actually Mitsuri who hits the nail on the head here. Staring into the dark water, she picks up on this profound sadness and whispers this haunting question. If human affection, if love itself, actually outlasts the physical body, can it curdle and become a curse? It's just a brilliant insight. She takes this massive, terrifying supernatural event and connects it right back to the most basic human emotions. Because think about it, every rule we know tells us to expect malice and bloodlust from something climbing out of the dark. But the silhouette that steps out of the water isn't a snarling beast, it's a little boy. He doesn't attack, he just looks at them and asks, "Have you seen my mom?" Tanjiro is totally braced for a fight, but he feels absolutely zero demonic rage. It breaks every rule he knows. He feels nothing but a profound, hollow emptiness. Now, what's really interesting about this entire situation is why their normal tactics are suddenly entirely useless. Why didn't the morning sun incinerate them? Why do they just passively wait around instead of going on the offensive? And most terrifyingly, when Inosuke completely loses his patience and slashes at them, his blade passes right through, literally like cutting through standing water. So why did Inosuke's blade fail? Well, it comes down to the actual physics of these immortal shadows, what we can call theory number 2. They can't be killed because they aren't technically alive, but they aren't fully dead either. They're trapped in an echo state. These are literal echoes of feelings that grew so dense, so heavy, that they refuse to disappear. And, well, you can't slice an emotion with a sword. That's why physical attacks do absolutely nothing.
But, the ocean doesn't exactly like being challenged. Just as the group realizes their swords are useless, the true enemy wakes up. The water starts violently churning. Down below, that impossible city starts to crumble into the abyss. The slow-moving figures start screaming, and rising from the absolute deepest part of the water is this massive, faceless, formless entity, booming with the power of hundreds of desperate voices all at once.
And out of that deafening chaos, out of hundreds of screaming voices, there's just one single, tragic demand echoing across the water: don't leave. It's not a threat. It's just a desperate, suffocating plea.
As that plea washes over them, Mitsuri steps up and fundamentally changes the entire genre of this story in a single heartbeat. She looks up at this towering mass of supernatural energy and realizes the truth. It isn't evil, it's just profound, crushing loneliness. In that exact moment, we completely shift from an action horror story right into an emotional tragedy.
So, I have to ask you, how do you fight that? Seriously, how do you defeat an enemy who has absolutely zero desire to kill you? An enemy whose only crime is that it simply doesn't want to be alone anymore?
Well, Tanjiro figures it out, and he makes a brilliant tactical shift. He realizes that drawing a sword here is like trying to fight a hurricane with a matchstick. It's useless. And honestly, it's a powerful lesson. Sometimes, the only effective weapon against anger and abandonment isn't physical violence, it's profound empathy. So he does the unthinkable for a demon slayer. He drops his weapon, he kneels right there in the wet sand, and he reaches out an empty hand.
He doesn't scream a battle cry. So the crucial point is, Tanjiro just looks up at this massive, churning entity and speaks with quiet, undeniable validation. He just says, "We are here." He acknowledges their pain. He witnesses them. And simply by acknowledging that pain, the towering attack immediately halts.
Which brings us to strange fact number 5, tying up the whole thematic lesson of this supernatural space. To stop a monster, sometimes you shouldn't fight it. Sometimes you simply have to answer it. You have to speak directly to the pain that created the monster in the first place.
The ocean instantly freezes. The hundreds of voices just completely die out. For a moment, there is absolute, deafening silence. The immediate threat is completely pacified by Tanjiro's empathy, but right as the formless entity sinks back into the depths, it leaves behind one incredibly chilling final whisper. Then, don't leave. The attack is over, but make no mistake, that underlying curse, it is still incredibly hungry.
And that hunger comes with a terrible price. The very next morning, Tanjiro looks down at his hand, the exact same hand he reached out to the water. His skin is freezing cold, and creeping up his arm are these dark, mysterious patterns that look exactly like crashing waves. He offered the ocean his empathy, but what on earth did the ocean give him in return? Did he just anchor himself to that drowned city forever? What do these wave-like curses actually mean for his fate? Well, we are going to have to wait to find out. But until the next explainer, remember, sometimes the deepest scars you carry are the ones you willingly take on. Catch you next time.